Hello, I'm Nicola Piovesan. I'm originally from Italy, but now living in Estonia. And I'm the game developer of Encodya. And originally I'm a filmmaker and film producer, so I started my career making movies. But now, for a couple of years, I also started developing games. And Encodya is my first game. And in Encodya, I took care of a lot of things. Of course, all the concept and the game design, the writing, the art, coding, and many other things. But I had also a small indie team that helped me with music, sound design, some animation, some 3D models, helped me also with the writing. So it's not a solo project, but the most of the graphic design and coding and writing, then yeah, that's what I've done. Originally, I thought of giving the game style and humor of Monkey Island, which is one of my favorite games that I used to play when I was a teenager. And that game style and humor in a setting similar to Blade Runner, so like a futuristic cyberpunk dystopia. And at the same time, I didn't want to make something too serious or dark. So I also put elements that are taken from the Miyazaki of Studio Ghibli, which I really like, and for his creativity and the sweetness and the cuteness of his characters and environments. So I've tried to put all of that also in Encodya.
I'm a 2D artist, and together with my colleague Attilio Di Gaeta, we've been working on a bunch of characters, and starting from the concept we had made by the concept artist, we had to turn those drawings into actual 3D models by modeling them and texturing them. And we had to give each one of them a specific look, a specific mode, a specific background story according to their role. But also we have to keep everything consistent between each character and be sure that everyone will fit the game in the same way and also meet the technical requirements we had for the game.
What I like the most about working in Encodya for me was, a new experience coming from movie industry. So it was great to see, how little by little the game become to life, and how the small pieces fitting together to create a game, to create the puzzle and the narrative. So the most amazing thing, was giving birth to the whole game, piece by piece, and from having first some background and implementing characters, solving puzzle and dialogues, and then later on also with the voice acting. And it was an amazing process. The most important feature of Encodya, in my opinion, is the immersion and the world where it's set, because we put a lot of attention on creating this universe, and this gives a truly immersive feeling to the player, also sound-wise, so not only visually, but the whole world is really coming alive. And also the possibility to switch players with the robot and the little girl, and two players that are very different each other, also in the way they can interact with characters or solving puzzles. So continuous switching characters help the player to get attached to the story and to the characters themselves, and also solving the puzzles and proceed with the narrative.
What a character rigger does is basically we create a sort of skeleton system to put inside the characters in order the animators to move it. And I rigged a lot of characters actually, such as Tina and Sam and a lot more. So I had to figure out how to behave with robots, half robots and half humans, and to manage different mixed anatomies between robots and humans. And I think a lot of characters were very well thought, and you know, the integration between robotic and human and creature style was very, very on point to me.
So obviously the art of Encodya is something that stands up right away, because we put a lot of attention for the details, both visually, you know, like all the advertising and the small details of the word. It's something that we really put a lot of care. And at the same time the sounds, because for instance every sound, advertising sound that you hear in the background, it's not coming from a library, but it's something that we wrote ourselves. It could be police propaganda or political propaganda or the advertising or some brand or tool, and they are like all made up, and we wrote record the speaker also in different languages. So we have Japanese, German, Italian, English, and all those voices that you hear in the background are like filling the world of Encodya. So those details for us were super important to help the immersion, not only visually but also with sounds and music, of course.
Crafting bit by bit the great world of tomorrow. Silent Guy.
When Nicola asked me to work on Encodya, it was a bit scary, because Encodya was my very first video game ever. Video game is a completely different field. It's very technical. There are a lot of technical aspects that you don't find in a short movie or cartoon, and etc. But at the end, I think that we do a great job, especially the art department. It's a mix between a cyberpunk world in a Studio Ghibli style. It's very particular, and I hope that everyone like it as we like it.
At night, I'm a professor at the university.
After some conversations, the illustrator and animator of the production team created my new alter ego, and I became a robotics professor. Beyond that, I also recorded the dialogues for my character, and as a beta tester, I always had a glimpse behind the curtain and witnessed the production flow.
It's common to find capacitors in the middle of the street in Neo-Berlin.
I would like to take the opportunity to encourage others to support independent game producers like Nicola.
This ship is so cool! Look at how big it is!
We are using 3D characters on a 2D backgrounds, but they are perfectly blend into each other, so you really can't recognize this fact, because we work with shadows, reflections, and also different layers, different 2D layers to fit the 3D characters very well, and also on the shaders of those 3D characters. So having 3D characters really improve a lot the smoothness of their movements and the animations of the players and the interactions and so on. And at the same time, having 2D backgrounds gives us a lot of options for creating visually stunning art in the background and foreground and in all the elements that fill the world of Encodya.
And sometimes Nicola would code something, see an issue, and discuss with me. So I try to recreate the situation, and eventually I come up with a solution that works. I like Encodya. It's like I'm watching a movie, but I can control what a player does.
Hernia's tape, similar to duct tape but stronger.
And of course, my experience as a filmmaker and film producer helped me a lot in the process, because I knew already a lot of professionals, you know, from musicians, animators, characters artists, and so on, that helped me giving life to Encodya.
I just had to sit and wait for these guys to send me the game that they had been working so hard on, and I just had to play through it. Growing up in the 90s, I played a lot of adventure games. It was really the golden age for this type of games. And I also love cyberpunk, ever since my dad showed me Blade Runner. So when Nicolas posted about this project, I was in, man. I was like, where do I sign up? I want to be a part of this. So I must have played this game like 4 times now, maybe. At a certain point, I was feeling that I wasn't a fresh player anymore. So I convinced my girlfriend to play through the whole game, and I just watched her react and watched her frustrations and all of that. Another part of this job is to idiot-proof the game. So, for instance, if a character says, "You shall pass, go to door A," I would go to door B. Or I would go back to the beginning of the game, you know, to see if the game was ready for that sort of player that does everything wrong.
Would you like to hear the news?
Morning, Sam.
Super important was to have a strong narrative. For us, it was, you know, having a great story was the most important part of it. And the story grows slowly, so like the first part is more or less like an ordinary day for Tina and Sam, but then they discover something big. And then it starts this journey, which is full of adventures and interesting characters they encounter in their journey. So the narrative, I think, is one of the strongest points of Encodya.
A forgotten dream that will set them on an incredible journey. The journey to Encodya.